Iran's ability to project power in the region has taken a major hit, but it just doesn't stop there. It sort of has a ripple effect, and a very serious one, on the domestic political situation in Iran. Regime is already in transition mode. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is 85. And he's, he has to pass the baton on to a successor. Even as he's still around, the locus of power has shifted to the military. The clerics are not the ones calling the shots, because for all practical purposes, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and more recently, the regular armed forces known as the Artesh, they are the ones calling the shots. And so I think that this is becoming a military-dominated regime, and I think that that was already happening, and now with this situation, given the direct clash with Israel, you have to have the pragmatists and the more hawkish elements basically going at it, against each other, and basically engaged in at least some vigorous debate, if not outright infighting, that, where are we headed? So the hawks will obviously not want to give up, and they're going to try to push, and they're trying to push the country in a certain direction. And this is an opportunity for the pragmatists to sort of say, hey, this hasn't worked out. I mean, we spent decades building this proxy network only to see it dismantled by, just look at Hezbollah. They've spent decades building it. And let's just take the last 18 years since the last Israel-Hezbollah war of 2006, in which Hezbollah managed to avoid being defeated. And it was seen as this power in the region. Iran was riding a high on the outcome of that conflict. And Iran really beefed up the firepower of Hezbollah. So you've spent 18 years, if not many more, going back to the 1980s, developing this. And then all of it came down crashing within a matter of, let's say, weeks, months, maybe, where your top leadership of Hezbollah was systematically eliminated. Your Hezbollah's ability to launch offensive action has been seriously degraded. It's been hit by a massive disruption wave, and it has to rebuild and sort of hunker down. It's losing territory in the south. Its position inside Lebanon in terms of the political balance is now under question. And so the pragmatists are saying, what did this all get us? So maybe it's time to change track here. Maybe Iranian national interest and ambitions for regional power can be pursued in a different way, as opposed to being driven by ideology, if you will.
Well, and I want to come on to the internal power struggles a bit more in a moment, but just on that point there, really, I mean, can you just remind us, what does Iran actually want in the region? There's always, of course, lots of talk of it being part of a axis of resistance, or this idea that it's, permanently at war with Israel, or anti-Western. What does it actually want? What's its sort of pure geopolitics in that respect?
Well, look, I mean, Iran looks at the Arab world, and the Arab world is in disarray, has been for a long time. Iran has been capitalizing on it, essentially, and that sort of whole process took off exponentially after the Arab Spring meltdown. And it wants to be a great power in the region. It has Turkey checkmated, its historical rival. In fact, I would say that right now, in the here and now, and when I say here and now, I mean the last 20, 30 years, Iran has been the dominant power in the region, as opposed to what was the case back during the imperial age, when it was the Ottoman Empire, the predecessor to the Republic of Turkey, that was dominant, and the Persian Empire at the time, the Safavid Empire, was on the back foot. So you have the opposite. It's a historic sort of situation where a Persian Shia entity has never had this kind of influence in the Arab world historically, ever since the rise of Islam. The last time a Persian entity, had this level of influence and was a great power in the region was the Sassanid Empire, which is the pre-Islamic Iranian, dominion, imperial dominion at the time. So this is a historic moment that the Iranians have worked hard on, but they are now seeing it being systematically dismantled. Their entire sphere of influence is now under question. Hamas has been devastated, and so is Palestinian Islamic Jihad, although they're still out there in the West Bank, and we have yet to see what happens there. But in their core turf of Gaza, it's very clear that Hamas is not what it used to be. It's still out there. It hasn't, it can, if the Israelis were to sort of stop and not go after Hamas any further after the death of Sinwar, then there's a chance that, Hamas could revive itself over the years. I don't think the Israelis are going to do that. But for the purposes of our conversation, Hamas has been dismantled. It's in a worse shape than Hezbollah. Hezbollah is now back to a stage where it has to, it's no longer a power that the Iranians can wield, and it's not a gun that the Iranians can, keep to the head of Israel. And it's more in survival mode now, in the sense that if it weakens offensively in terms of offensive capabilities, then the next question is, are you still able to retain your dominant position in your own country as a political actor? What happens to the delicate confessional balance of power between, the various religious sects and, the Hezbollah and the anti-Hezbollah camp? So there's that. And so what you now have is, I really think that the Iranians are probably hugely disappointed at the way that they've seen their empire in the making crumble in such a short period of time. Their assumption was the Israelis lacked the ability and or the intent to really neutralize Hezbollah. That assumption proved to be wrong, given the actions of the current Israeli government. While it's been still going after Hamas, it opened a second front.